Welcome back, everyone. Today we're out standing in a field. We're not playing with that Jeep, but we're going to be playing with these Jeeps. Something a bit different this time. My dad and I have had these Jeeps for a long time, 25 plus years anyway, and it's been a long time since either of them have run, so let's see if we can make that happen today. So we picked both these Jeeps up probably 25 plus years ago when we very first got them. The gray one in the back there, I actually had that up and running. I ran that around the property a bunch, and then it's sat ever since. The red one, we've never actually had that one up and running, so maybe today will be the day. Let's get in there and check it out. So these are a couple of old Jeep CJ5s. Both of these Jeeps came from an old citrus farm, probably an hour from us here. And you can see that apparently the farmers or the ranch hands, they didn't pay close attention to that passenger side there. Both those front fenders are beat up on them. California vehicles, so I mean, yeah, the seat's seen better days, but surface rust on the floors and really not much rust elsewhere other than just surface rust. Always fun to have something like this to be able to pick up, throw together, and just mess around with. Just never got around to it. Same thing over here. Same thing with the seat, but again, the floor, I mean, really the only holes that are in there are the holes that the farmers cut. And other than that, they're in pretty solid shape. I mean, you know, another little couple back corner damages there, but we're not super worried about that. So both these things would have had the 134 Hurricane 4-cylinder engines. This one's just a 3-speed transmission shifter here, 2 shifters for the transfer case. This one's the 3-speed, so this would have been the T90. Not a bad little transmission. This one over here, same thing, that awesome 134. This one's actually going to have the T18 transmission. Both of those are going to have the Dana 18 transfer cases. Both good setups. That T18 just has a little bit lower gearing in that first gear ratio. Get up and going a little bit, but just kind of your stock standard stuff. On the farm, it just worked. Did what they needed. You can see this one still has the little panel to kind of tell you how to actually shift the thing. Kind of cool. So that anybody who jumped in could figure it out. You can see on that T18, you know, just a standard H pattern. First, if I remember right, it's actually kind of a granny low gear. On the transfer case, you've got those 2 sticks there. And so you can see with your patterns here, the one stick is actually going to be your 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. And the other one's going to be your low, neutral, and high. And you got these Armstrong Norseman tires here. Still got a lot of tread on there. We should be able to get some miles out of that thing. On the gray one back here, we've got some old Dunlops, but we got some big old meats on there. That one's got some 31s. This one was only on the 28s. Again, with that granny gear and that transmission, it would kind of help out with that taller tire, helping that thing to spin. Dad was gathering parts at one point. Got an old GM steering gear on here to put power steering into this thing. Never got around to it. Maybe if we can get one of these things going, then we can get them up and cracking on this thing. And when we got these things, I mean, they were just like this. They had the windshield frame on there, and that was it. At one point, we had grabbed this roll bar just to give it a little bit of protection. But, I mean, there's no frame tie-ins or anything like that. Like it says there, this is a light bar. Does not provide crash protection. It's not tied in the frame, so it's not going to do you any good. But, you know, that was the look on these things. So you have that single roll bar in there, and your head just flailing around in the breeze. Let's see what it's looking like under the hood. Well, those still work. There it is, that monstrous 134. Now you can see, I mean, not a big vehicle. Really small engine. These things, if I remember right, they were something like, I don't know, 70, 75 horsepower from the factory. Just not a whole lot, but they've got tons of gearing. The axles in these things, they might have even had like 589s in them or something, but just tons of gearing on them because they weren't made for speed. They were made for basically like a farm implement or a yard implement. So for getting around the farm and the ranch and working like that, not racing down the freeway. Tiny little motor, not a whole lot to it. Let's see if we can get anything out of it. All right, so with any engine, there's 3 things that you got to have. You always got to have fuel, you got to have spark, and you got to have air. So we need to make sure that we're in decent shape there. Other thing is, actually the very first thing that we're going to check is to make sure that we can actually turn the engine over. Because if it's seized up, then there's no point in doing a whole lot of this. So let's see what we got. So a lot of times, if there's enough grip on that belt, you can actually just turn the fan, and this thing's tiny. So, oh yeah. Yeah, you can see that's turning over. No problem. Get you in here and show you. Easy thing to do is a lot of times people just grab a wrench, throw it on the crank. Problem with that is that bolt sometimes can snap. So you always want to be careful doing stuff like that. But on something like this, I mean, there's hardly any compression. It's very little cubic inches. So there's not a ton of resistance on this whole system. So something like this, literally grab the fan blade and give it a turn. As long as that belt's not slipping, there's a pretty good chance it's going to move if the engine's loose. So, oh yeah, you can see we're spinning no problem there. I just want to see if it'll come all the way around a full 360. And that way I'll know that there's no scarring in that cylinder or anything that's going to get caught or messed up. Okay, so we got a little bit of resistance there, but I think that might just be the old belt. Yeah, it's still coming. Oh yeah. Yeah, we got 360 and belt slipping, but the crank is still turning, so we're in decent shape there. Next, of course, we want to check the vitals, make sure that if this thing gets going, that it's going to stay alive, or as alive as it can be. So that always is. Start with the dipstick. Oh yeah, we're in good shape there. It's actually, yeah, it's nice and full. The nice thing with engine oil, if it's just sitting there, it's not going to break down. It's only going to break down under heat and wear. So even though this thing's been sitting forever, that it's still going to be fine to try and get this thing lit off. I got these awesome custom flexi hoses that fit anywhere. Luckily, I don't see any holes in them. Yeah, the radiator's bone dry. We'll dump some water in and see what it looks like. Now, luckily, my mom had this watering can laying around, so, we can see if we can get this Jeep to grow up big and strong. Does make it pretty convenient for filling that radiator, though. And somehow yet, I am still managing to get water everywhere. Came up nice, sitting above the rows there, so that's not bad. See if it stays there or not. But that's a good start. Now we're at a point we can throw battery in this thing and see if that starter is going to turn the engine over. There's hardly any compression in that thing, so as long as it's working, it shouldn't have a problem. See what we can do here. Got the El Cheapo battery from the parts store. They don't always keep them out front, so sometimes you actually have to ask for them because they keep them in the back because they don't want to sell you the cheap one. For something like this, it definitely does not need a $200-300 battery. And with your battery cables on something like this, you have to pay attention, especially like this. We have 2 blue battery cables because blue is what we use for power, right? Nah. So anyway, we don't have red, we don't have a black, so we have to pay attention. So just make sure that you grab that ground, see where it's going to. It's coming down here to the thermostat housing, so it's actually getting grounded to the block. So that's good. I know that that one is my ground. So I can shove that one on the negative. And then one of the first things you want to do when you get power to it is you want to just kind of check the wiring. Check, kind of see any electrical connections, check under the dash. Luckily, again, this thing does not have that much wiring, so there's not a whole lot of stuff to check. But that smoke that comes out of those things, it's really expensive and it sucks to replace. So if you can keep it from happening, then you want to do that. So just kind of take your time. So we'll give it some sauce and see what it does here. All right. I don't see anything smoky, sparky. Neighbor's got Wild Kingdom going on over here. They've got goats and they've got chickens and roosters and pigs and dogs, and I mean, it's just a regular party out here. All right, so now I got this. Basically what this is it's just a momentary switch. It's got that little trigger. So all it does is I get power from the battery and then I send it to the solenoid on the starter, and then squeezing that makes contact on the two of them, so it spins it over. And it's got alligator clips, so it makes it kind of convenient as long as I can get down to it. This right here, this on its own is not going to try and start the engine. It's just going to try and turn it over. So as long as the ignition is not turned to on or run, it's not going to send power to the coil, so it's not going to actually start the thing. Jiggle it 15 times to make sure that you're in neutral. We should be set up so that when I pull the switch, the engine should turn over. That's a good sign. Now it'll turn over. So now we can try adding some spark to it. and we can try adding some fuel to it. We're just going to pull that off. That's our intake piece. Oh, that's a beaut. Yeah. It's held down with some grade 5 hardware, some orange silicone there. That keeps that thing down nice and tight, so you're not going to have any issues there. Show you guys this because it's kind of interesting. Our throttle linkage is coming from down here. Let's see, it's coming from down here. Then you got a relay rod up to here. Then across the top of the valve cover. And you come all the way over to this side. Pretty long walk around this thing. Across the valve cover, down here, and then it comes down to the bottom of the carburetor there. So anyway, all that stuff going on there. Feels like it's moving. That spring's allowing it to return. I don't know if you guys can see down in there, but the throttle blade's definitely moving. Now we can try and add some spark, throw some fuel down the throat of it, and see what it'll do. To try and fire it, I'm actually going to use some premix. This has 2-stroke oil in it, so it's actually going to kind of help lubricate the cylinders a little bit. You can just do like brake clean or something along those lines. Problem with that is it's really dry. You know, you spray brake clean on something, the big thing about it is that it dries up and cleans itself, so there's nothing left there. So you figure if you throw that down the throat of a carburetor of an engine that's been sitting for a long time, any oil that's inside those cylinders has drained down, so there's hardly any oil in those cylinders at all. So you throw really dry fuel in there and you could be damaging up the cylinder walls and everything. So a little bit of 2-stroke premix works good. Adds a little bit of oil in there to kind of help lubricate those cylinders until the oil pressure builds up and actually starts kind of getting into the cylinders and on the rings and everything. All right, so I make my coil live. A little spark, that means it's working. And then we're going to see if we can get that down the vent tube. We don't want a whole lot, just something to get it to light. All right, we'll see what that does. It's purring like a kitten. Are you kidding me? Just had to get a little bit of fuel down the throat and actually get down in there. But did you hear that? Let's throw some more fuel to this thing and see if we can get it running and keep it running. Down in here, you can see, there's my fuel pump. We got a filter here. So this right here is actually a really good spot to try and tie in a fuel supply. So we'll break loose that clamp, pull off this line, and then I'll see if I can tap in with some 5/16 line, get a hose on there, and then we'll see what we can get this thing to do. There we go. Yeah, so if I can get that thing loose like that, then it's more likely I'll be able to pull it off like that. It's like this thing just wants to go rip around the backyard. All right, we're going to kind of tuck that back out of the way. But see, now I can tie into that fuel line right there and get a good fuel supply. And that fuel is varnished. I mean, I'd be shocked if it wasn't. But just that little bit I got on my finger is ripe. Man, those roosters are going nuts down there. I think they're just excited to hear this thing run. It's my fan club. We got a temporary fuel system there. My fuel cell. Let's see if we can get this thing to run just a little bit longer. At this point, I'm trying to get the fuel pump to pick up fuel. Once that has prime, then I won't be needing to splash it down the throat here. Get it in there. There she goes. There we go. Come on, a little bit. Oh, little sputter. It's trying. It's trying. Just need to get some of that fuel out of the can. That's going the wrong way. Yeah, it's pulling fuel, but we got some pretty serious leaks in there. That's okay, but we got something we can work on that one. So that's definitely going to need a carb rebuild. Get that thing cleaned up and not spitting fuel everywhere. We're pulling fuel, so that means fuel pump's working. So you can see I've got fuel going into the pump. I don't really see anything that's leaking out of the pump. Might be a little bit wet down there. Not really, no. So it looks like the fuel pump's in good shape. Well, I mean, you know, as good as can be. But if you guys saw that, we were spitting fuel pretty good out that breather. So it was pumping. I mean, you can see all down the side of the block, base of the car back in here. We got fuel spitting everywhere. So that's going to need a rebuild, which I'm not surprised about at all. We got something to work on that one. See if we can get a hold of a carb rebuild kit at some point and then tear into that thing. That might be a project for Dad. He needs a good project. Let's see what we can find out on the red one. I'm suspecting that might be a newer version with the solenoid on top of the starter down there. You can see right there. So, but that's not bad. You can see we've got our cold air intake here. So that's some pretty high performance stuff. I'm sure that brought this thing up to like 75.25 horsepower over the 75 it may have been when it left the factory. We're going to start just like the other one and see if we have some compression in this thing. If we can grab that. Oh man, that's looking good. So yeah, that one's moving pretty smooth. See if it'll give us a full revolution here, a full 360. I'd say that's pretty promising. All right, that's a good sign. Check the oil situation. Just about dropped a big old chunk of dirt down there. Oh yeah, oil is just below the field line. I mean, how awesome is that? Something like that. Sitting for at least 25 years. Probably longer because it sat at the farmer's place for quite a while that I knew about. And oil's still right up to the line. See what the coolant's looking like. Oh, wow. Check that out. We've actually got coolant. Or water. Something. Oh, yeah, that's coolant. So we've got coolant. Engine will turn over. We've got oil. We're in good shape there. All right. So the other one had blue, positive, and negative leads. This one's got two reds. Always pay attention to where your cables go, because the color doesn't necessarily mean anything. This one's not actually grounding to the thermostat housing, but right down to the block itself. I did notice the battery cable's got a break in the clamp, which isn't a major thing. Just something to pay attention to. I mean, long term, definitely want to replace that, but for messing around in the yard right here, I think we can make it work. The fuel lines are disconnected. Well, that's not necessarily a great sign. So I'm guessing that one's got some fuel issues, fuel delivery issues. Let's get you in there, show you what I see. Again, fuel pump right down here. You can see both the lines. That's the supply, that's the return. Both of them are disconnected. So not necessarily a great sign, because that means that that thing's probably full of critters and debris and dirt and junk. So not sure if we'll be able to pull through that, but let's find out. I'll get that on the starter. Q making stupid faces right now. All right, so everything's free, everything's loose. We'll throw that cap back on, because it's probably just gonna be like a geyser just coming out of there. Just all the power that water pump has, just blasting it at me. All right, so everything's hooked up. I turn it over by hand, so see if it'll turn over by the starter now. That's a good sign too. Now I just need to rig up my hot wire, which is an easy one. Clear some junk out of there before I try and get it to run, or just throw more in it. Oh no, broke the cold air intake. This one kind of has a weak spring on it, so the return is not great. There we go. That freed it up a bit. All right, now dump some fuel down in the throat and see if she'll bark. Maybe cough, maybe sputter. I'm not too optimistic on that fuel pump situation, but we'll see if we can actually get it to run this way anyway. That was a good little chunk. Smell that varnish fuel. Helps if I turn it on to the right thing. All right, we got power to the coil. Let's pop the cap and see what points look like on this thing. I mean, they look clean. All right, so we've definitely got air because we've got the roosters are going nuts. So we've definitely got air because, I mean, we've got the carburetor open nice and clean there. I know I've got fuel because I'm throwing it right down the throat. So next thing I'm checking is I'm checking to see if I've got 12 volts entering the distributor. So basically that's my key on. So then I'm just looking to see making sure that I've got 12 volts inside the distributor when the key is on, and it shows that I do, so that's good. And it looks like I've got 12 volts coming through the contacts there, or battery voltage anyway, coming through the contacts, so that's good. So let's see if we can see if there's any spark. See if we can get that out. Ooh, oh yeah. Nice and easy. Well, it's definitely been running a little fat. I don't know if you can see that. It's pretty dark. So definitely not the ideal color, but it's also not super surprising. See if I can catch a dirt clod before it drops down in the spark plug hole there. All right. Better. Okay. Test it. We're just going to throw plug wire on it. We're going to let it rest against the block so it's grounding. And we're just looking for spark. Rotate that so I can see that better. Everything hooked up. I'm going to bring my starter over here so as it cranks, I can stare at that spark plug. Bring you guys in close. You can help me see if we're getting any spark on that. A little bit of junk in the cylinder there. I'm not seeing much of anything. Well, I guess we got a pretty good jumping off point there. So the gray one, carb's flooding. Got fuel dumping out the vent tube there. So that one definitely needs a rebuild. If I can't get a rebuild kit, I may be looking for a carb. But that one shouldn't be too bad. Again, started, ran, not too bad a shape there. The red one, that one we've got a little bit more to dig into. I'm thinking a new coil is going to take care of us. Should be about 20 bucks, so that's a pretty easy one to throw at it and see what it does. I can't always pull the one off the gray Jeep, throw it on the red one, see if it works that way too. So let me know, what do you guys think we should do with these? We've got two lovely pieces of machinery here. What do you think? Make another cruiser, just something thrown together that's just fun for kind of putting around town? Or should we go with something that's a little bit more of an adventure rig? Heck, maybe throw an I-beam front end into one of these things, drop it down, make a little rat rod out of it or something like that. But let me know, what do you guys think we should do? If you like the video, give us a thumb up, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.